And we're live.
That's looking good.
Okay.
Okay. Well, good morning. Welcome to the Don't Stream and Drive live broadcast this morning with the help I have of Stephen Healey and John Upton, the Blabbing for Britain gentlemen, and also aficionados and expertise on live stream video and multi-conference platforms like this, which is great. I'm really grateful to both of you for your support, both this year and last year. As by way of introduction, my name's Neil Dewson-Smyth. I'm a sergeant with the Cheshire Constabulary, but I'm here today, and the Don't Stream and Drive Day is all about activity that I've done under my own banner through Twitter and through Periscope and other social media platforms to try and raise awareness about the dangers of people live streaming video whilst they're driving a car. And we're here just to talk about that and to try and promote the day a little and talk about some of the dangers that come from that. And hi, Adrian, welcome along.
Right, yeah, if anybody wants to join us on camera today, you'll find the link above, or at least you will in a minute. If you want to help, there are 20 minutes to go before the great tweet out. Because the link is above. If you want to help, you can help on Twitter and Facebook by clicking that link and signing up to tweet out at 12 midday and help Neil to get the message out. And the thing about being on here is that we can take the questions that you ask of Neil and us during the course of the program. So if you want to ask any questions, we are promoting Don't Stream and Drive Day, but you want to ask any questions at all, then the three of us will try and answer them. So Adrian, to answer your question, today we are on smiletime.com, which allows us to broadcast out and gives us 4 people on screen or 4 items on screen. And we can bring in also captions so that those come, that's spelled right, isn't it? No, it's not. I've done that again, sorry about that. Right, Neil, do you want to give a shout out for the next 20 minutes or so, because it's important, isn't it?
Yeah, so I was just trying to grab the Facebook link then so I could stick it onto, see, I'm trying to multitask already, which is a great demonstration of how things can go horribly wrong. If it's going wrong for me whilst I'm trying to operate a computer sat at the table talking to you about Don't Stream and Drive, and I'm suddenly focused on something else, then it's really obvious how it could go wrong when you're driving a car, when you've got all those things going on. You know, you're accelerating, braking, steering, indication controls, other traffic, pedestrians, all those things that are going on. And then you distract yourself with something that's really not important. So I'm sort of distracting myself by trying to copy and paste a link at the moment to the Facebook stream so that people can join. And I'm suddenly losing control of how I want to sort of deliver the broadcast, which is a great example of what Don't Stream and Drive is all about. It's because you're adding an avoidable or an unnecessary distraction into the driving environment, and the consequences of that can be that you drift across the road, you run up the curb, or your driving standard is lowered. And you might end up with a prosecution through the police with the new penalties for 6 points and £200 fine if you're holding the phone, but can also lead to quite fatal consequences, which is obviously going to lead to a prison sentence on conviction. So the consequences of it are huge.
Indeed, and it is very important for the next 20 minutes. I've now posted the link. If you click the link above, you can help out with a thunderclap and promote this hashtag through your Twitter account. And if you've got 1 or 1,000 Twitter followers, then you can help get the message out. And I'm just aware now Neil is sharing things out, so I'm going to waffle for a moment and take that question off. Yeah. And I'm going to use the stage to bring up, first of all, a memory for all of us. And this is last year.
Gosh. April the 8th, 2016.
Yeah.
Pretty much in the same spot with the same picture behind me here. So, yeah. But Yes, but the thunderclap is one of those things. I think it's basically, for those people have a lot of concerns about thunderclaps, because when you go through the process of signing up for it, it asks for authorization to access your Twitter account or your Facebook. But it's a fairly well-established process, and it's a well-established platform that's very popular with a lot of people. But that it does cause some people to have little issues. But ultimately, you're just giving it access to allow it to post one tweet, which you can actually edit. When you go through the process, you can actually edit it to what you want it to, if it's not entirely in line with what you'd like to say as an organization or whatever. But it will put that message out there at 12 midday today with the hashtag and the link to the Don't Stream and Drive WordPress blog, which is in its infancy at the moment. But and then ultimately, if you're really uncomfortable with it having access to your Twitter account, because it's not going to do anything else without your permission, if you're uncomfortable with that, you can go into your settings within the web browser and revoke access to Thunderclap, and then use it next time you come along. So it's quite easy to use. And the concept of a Thunderclap is that there are 400 and, let's just have a quick look and go to the page and have a look. There are currently, well, there's been a few more sign-ups while we've been away. There are 423 people signed up now, organizations and people. The Driver Vehicle Standards Agency, the Government Driver Vehicle Standards Agency, has just joined it as well, which is great. So 422 people are currently signed. Oh, no, that's on your screen, not mine.
Sorry. It needs more people signing up.
Yeah, 423 people signed up, and a social media reach on there of 3,800,000 people. And what happens is all those tweets will go out automatically at 12 midday, and Thunderclap will make sure that they all go. And so it creates a loud bang on Twitter, on social media at that time, because that hashtag will just go off lots and lots of accounts, which should give it some impact.
Right, we have a question that's come in, and I'm going to bring it on the screen and read it out. What about wearing a headphone set connected to an iPhone and talking to people while driving?
Okay, it's one of those things with that where there's a lot of debate about. This is less about Stream and Drive and more about using a phone while driving as a communications device. And essentially, it's an extension of the phone, isn't it? And so the phone's not handheld, therefore you're hands-free. But if you've got one of these things on an iPhone where you're pressing the button to accept the call and adjusting the volume, you're suddenly interacting with this communications device in order to make a call, in which case, potentially, you're going to be distracted by it. So you're not hand-holding the phone, which is what the legislation for the mobile phone offence swings around, but the distraction it causes may cause you to wander in the road, may cause you to not see something that's happened, which may open you up to other consequences, such as careless driving.
Now, the next question, what about making a video recording while you're driving?
That's exactly what streaming and driving is about. Whether you're live streaming or whether you're making a video recording, ultimately you are distracted because you're presenting, aren't you? That's what I'm presenting to you guys now, and what you're doing when you're driving the car is you are presenting. And whether the camera's pointing down the road or whether the camera's pointing at you is irrelevant, because you're pointing down the road and talking about what's happening and where you're going and what you're doing, and this is such and such that we're going past here, and you're giving a commentary about the things that you're seeing and the things that you're talking about. And if it's pointing at you, you could be talking about your job or your work, or giving instructions and education about something that you want people to know more about, which is clearly not where your mind should be. Because one of the things that I've pushed through as the mobile phone legislation changes have been coming to fruition yesterday, is that the legislation as it stands for mobile phone use by drivers concentrates on the fact that it's a handheld. If it's handheld, it's an offence, which basically has conditioned the public to think that hands-free is okay. And what it doesn't sort of address, and there's a certain amount of sympathy with regard to the legislation as it stands, because mobile phones in 2003, when the legislation came into play, are a completely different beast to what they were in 2003. Nokia have just released a new 3310, haven't they? Everybody had 3310s and things in those days. They just made phone calls, sent texts, and you played Snake. They're massively different devices now to what they were, and their functionality is hugely increased, which means that the opportunity for it to cause more distraction to you as a driver has risen exponentially. And so there's a real danger there with using a phone, that it's going to create problems. So if you're recording a video to post later, you're broadcasting, your mind's not where it's supposed to be. If you're live streaming, your mind's not where it's supposed to be, because ultimately driving a car and a phone, it's so much more than just hands-free, because your eyes and your mind have to be on the road too. And the loss of any one of those critical components could cause devastating consequences.
If anyone has any questions or any points, we can see what you're saying on Facebook. If you just want to say hi and support Neil, then please do so. You have 10 minutes left to support the Thunderclap, and that will go out at midday, and we'll do it. Well, do you think we should do a 10-second countdown?
Ooh.
We did last year.
Did we? Crikey, I can't remember. But
yeah.
I must admit, I'm multitasking all day, so I'm jumping around all over. So it's not surprising there's stuff that I can't remember. And I always feel guilty when people send me messages and notifications, and it scrolls down my screen, and I miss it and don't reply or say thank you. So yes, we are getting close, though, aren't we? It's 7 minutes to 7.
It is, yeah.
Wow. So this is the Thunderclap is a great thing. As I said earlier, it does cause some people some consternation because it's looking for access to your account, but it's not in a sinister way. But what it also does for the campaign is it acts as a rallying point. It allows me to talk about the topic for weeks in advance of the day to get the conversation started, and it gives people a central point to sort of look at and consider joining on or not, as it happens to be. But it's that sort of hub that allows the conversation to keep going in advance of the day. Because if you just sit here on Don't Stream and Drive Day first thing in the morning and say, right, it's Don't Stream and Drive Day, let's have lots of support, you're not going to get it. You've got to build that support throughout the preceding weeks.
Indeed. And talking of support, if you're watching this, and I'm aware that Neil and John have shared this John especially, has shared this everywhere. If you want to join us on the show itself, then you can click the link above, and you can come on camera if you wish and talk to Neil and John and myself, and it'd be great if you could. Now, let's just go back a year. I'm just going to pull myself over here. All right, okay, we've got another question. I'll bring the question over there. Did you say it's 6 points and a £200 fine?
I did. The legislation for using a handheld mobile phone whilst you're driving increased yesterday, March the 1st, from £100 and 3 points to £200 and 6 points. And that was a really interesting development because the penalty increases were put out to consultation by the government, and the government put them out, and they put out a number of I think there were 3 options that you could choose. And the government's preferred option, as their consultation went out, was increasing it to 4 points and £150. And over the period of time the consultation went out, I can only assume that there was an awful lot of feedback given to them saying it wasn't enough and it needed to be stronger and it needed to be firmer, because when the consultation concluded and they announced the changes, they were in excess of what was their preferred choice at the start of the consultation. So the fine was at £100 and 3 points. The government was suggesting £150 and 4 points. And when the consultation concluded, the government said, £200 and 6 points. And for UK drivers, that has a massive implication because that's 2 strikes and you're out. 12 points and your license is revoked. And for younger drivers who are within 2 years of passing the test, it's 1 strike and you're out, because if you accrue 6 points on your license in the first 2 years of driving, your license is revoked automatically and you go back to square one and start again with the test. So it has huge implications. And one of the things I've been pushing on social media as well is for employers, because potentially employers are going to find their mobile workforce very quickly off the road if their drivers don't change their behavior.
Right. Okay. Well, certainly, you said it changed yesterday, and yes. Right. Okay. Now you have a few moments left. As Neil has said, I'm just going to move myself over here. The thunderclap is due to go out in a few moments' time, if I can get it on screen. And that's a photograph. I have to admit this. I took a photograph about 11:30, so the numbers are going up. All is good with that. But it's a great way to actually get the message out. Now, what's your schedule for today, Neil?
I've been busy on social media and on Twitter. I've put stuff out on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat this morning. I joined you guys on Blabbing for Britain earlier. I'm here now for as long as it takes and for people to need us, and I'm sure it may be that we'll do something similar later on, perhaps.
Yep.
And then I will essentially, for the bulk of the day, I will be buried in social media, retweeting, thanking people, sharing the message, putting images out there, and trying to keep the momentum of the hashtag going in order to push it through the day. And I sort of monitor it. I don't sort of hold a huge amount of value in incredibly detailed analytics for Twitter, but it's that one time of the year where I actually just pay for a month's access to Twitonomy in order to just sort of monitor the stats and information that comes from it. And I've just refreshed the page as we speak while we still got before the thunderclap goes out, just to see where we're at for the day on the hashtag so far. Yeah, there it is. It is currently potential reach throughout the day so far, 669 tweets, 321 users, and reach of 4,194,000 people. So that's just so far, and that's before the thunderclap goes out, which should add nearly another 4 million people to it, because that's approaching 4 million now, isn't it? It's 3,800,000. So in some regards, it's a shame, because I was hoping that it says 1 minute left on the thunderclap now. I was hoping that the number of signups would exceed last year, which was 509, but we haven't got that far. But I had more signups last year, 509 signups, but the reach was only 2.4 million. So the reach has increased massively this year, even though there's fewer people signing up. So there's some of the accounts that have signed up have got a much bigger social media influence than those that we had last year. So I think we're nearly there.
We are. My clock says 10 seconds. Is that right? Not far off.
I'm looking at my iPhone says it's 11:59 and 25 seconds. So I think about 35 seconds to go.
35 seconds to go. And the question that's coming from Zanab: if you want to get involved, you should find a link which is smarttime.com/channel Don't Stream and Drive. You don't need to type that in. You can just click that link and you'll be able to join us live on the stage here, and we welcome you if you want to come online and ask questions. Are we there yet? Is it midday?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's midday. So let's see what happens.
Okay.
There they go. They're all piling in now. I've got a stream in TweetDeck it's really great to see how they're just suddenly compiling in. And there they go. That's a huge impact. And it's interesting to look at that, because you do that and then you think, right, how quickly does Twitter pick up on that? And sort of say, okay, that's, you know, whether that starts to trend very quickly because it's such a huge amount of tweets very quickly. There's quite a lot of stuff going out there. Got Wiltshire Police, National Crime Agency, lots of police officers and members of the public around the country have all supported it. Chief Supers that were there on the senior command course when I presented to them a few weeks back, they've all signed up and joined it. Thames Valley Roads Policing, Drive for Life, Montebello Police Department in the United States, they've supported it in California. Norfolk, Lancs Police, Bedfordshire Police, they're all this. The Andy Rhodes has signed up to it. Andy Rhodes is the Deputy Chief Constable of Lancashire Police, but he's just been just announced yesterday that he's going to be appointed the Chief Constable of Lancashire Police, and he actually joined and was on the same intake as me. So I've got quite a connection with Andy Rhodes, which is nice. There's another one there, Eugenia Ambrosatis, or Jenny, as she's known, who's a collision investigator in Toronto. Hers has just gone out as well, and they're just firing through all the time. So it's quite astonishing to see how they how it actually works. West Yorkshire Police, Tispol, driving schools, police at Barnet. John Upton has just gone past there, streaming down in my column. Dee Collins, the West Yorkshire Police Chief Constable, who's really proactive on social media and a great advocate on social media. She's put something out. Cheshire Fire Service.
Tispol, driving schools, police at Barnet. John Upton has just gone past there, streaming down.
I can hear myself now.
It's okay. We should be. I'm going to.
Occasionally.
I've got a cure of it. John, we're back in a moment. If you carry on, Neil, as if nothing had happened.
Rob Stevens, who's the coordinator of the Superhero CSE campaign that runs for a week every year. His has just gone past. The new Be Phone Smart team on Twitter, where you can make a promise to commit to not use your phone whilst you're driving and encourage other people to. Cambridge Police, they've just gone past. Paramedic Friends, Para John off Twitter, he's just gone through. Scottish Police Memorial, and I've also seen go through three guys who are great supporters of the campaign and do without them, which is Sergeant Paul Cording from North Yorkshire Police, Sergeant Chris Harris from Norfolk Police, and Sergeant Harry Tanguy from Devon and Cornwall. Theirs have all gone through as well, and they're great supporters of the campaign and really push the message for me, which is fabulous. That just seems now, that column has just come to a stop. And right. The most recent one in it actually is actually a retweet of the Cambridge Police, just looking at Don't Stream and hashtag. So that's great.
John, how's the stream for you? Just a moment. Sorry.
The DVSA, the Driver Vehicle Standards Agency, they brought
John, does the stream look okay to you?
Within the last 30 minutes of the campaign. So
right, okay. I'm just going to refresh. I'll be back in a minute.
Carry on. It's really quite nice just to see that happen. All those people that I've badgered for the last few weeks, that the message just keeps coming out and pouring out and pouring out. And so time must be 12 o'clock. Chris Harris here, who I've just mentioned, she says, it must be 12 o'clock. My timeline's filled with Don't Stream and Drive tweets. So there you go. That's the thing. So that's really pleasing. So I can't see it in the trending list, but that's by the by.
They tend to be a fair bit behind.
Yes. And ultimately, I think you can manufacture a trend sometimes, and I don't think that's always a good thing. So What I will do there is I'll just go on to the analytics, because we're at 4,194,000. So we'll see how quick Twitonomy picks up on that and refresh that and see what that comes up with. Because last year, social media reach on Twitter, and this is just Twitter, on Twitter alone, the social media reach was just over 20 million people over a 24-hour period.
Got a gentleman from the RAC join us in the room.
Excellent. The RAC press team have been really supportive. They've been great, and they started as I said earlier, they started the Be Phone Smart website yesterday, launched the website yesterday, encouraging people to make that promise and also to post a photograph. Twitonomy has just come through. It's reloaded the page. We're at 8,265,000 now, so that's a 4 million leap in reach over just a very short space of time. And the tweets are, did we say 600 and something tweets earlier? It's now 1,053. So
right.
That's it. And the graph has gone boop, and up, which is great. So that's all good news. So, hello, Peter from the RAC. Welcome. As I was just saying, you've been the RAC team have been brilliant in helping support the campaign, and I've been quite happy to reciprocate with the Be Phone Smart initiative that you've launched, which is a great idea, and it's great because I think it's. With all these things, when it comes to road safety, it's not one thing in isolation that creates the change. It's a multi-pronged approach with all sorts of different angles that all come together and consolidate in one place that help to make the road safer.
Indeed. Right, I'm just inviting Pete in. I'm not sure whether you can join us or not, but we should try that. And in the meantime, let's just go through some of the things that have come out from your research.
Okay.
And I'm just going to change the screen up shortly. And here we have, well, if you want to talk us through this one while we're...
okay. What I'll do is I'll put, because of our video windows, I can't see that completely clearly, so I'll just bring it up on my phone so that I can see it. Basically, the image that's on the screen at the moment is information and figures, statistics that were brought up, that were established by TRL. TRL are Transport Research Laboratories. They're based in Berkshire. I had the pleasure of going down there last year, if you remember, and I drove their DigiCar, which they assessed my driving both normally and then as I simulated streaming and driving. But these figures that they created, I think, were 2002. They did this study in 2002, or I might be slightly wrong on the date, but it was roughly around there. And at that point, they'd identified ultimately that if you're using a handheld phone, your response time increases by 46% to what it would if you were just driving normally, which is an incredible amount of time. And if you're traveling at 40 or 50 miles an hour, that's a huge distance that you've covered in that additional space of time. And it's something that really astonishes me in many regards, because with all the presentations that I've done with Don't Stream and Drive and talked to people about the campaign and talked about the dangers of streaming and driving, is that it's the top one, which is the really socially unacceptable drink drive, the one that everybody says, oh, no, can't do that, wouldn't do that, and all the rest of it. And they look at it and think that increases your response times by around 13% in their study. But using a phone for texting, hands-free even, and handheld are significantly more than drink driving. And it's interesting because we look at drink driving and the penalty that comes with drink driving, and then you look at those figures and say, well, hang on, is the penalty a miss? Now, it's rather odd for me to be saying, is the penalty a miss when the penalties have just gone up to £200 and 6 points? Is the penalty a miss? Should drivers who are caught using a handheld phone face the same sort of penalty that drink drivers do, which is ultimately a fine, court, and a mandatory 12-month disqualification? I'm quite happy with the increases from a personal perspective as it stands, but I feel and I believe that ultimately, as the awareness of the dangers of using phones whilst driving increases in the awareness of the public and the media and the government, that this is not a stopping point for the mobile phone offence at £200 and 6 points. I don't believe it's going to stop here. I believe that eventually it's going to get to the point where it's equivalent and the same as drink drive. The shot that Stephen's just put up there now is another really interesting one. This is Old Trafford football stadium, not picked for any sort of specific reason because I'm not a huge fan of football in any regard, but this is the town this is the city where I grew up, and if push comes to shove, I sort of end up supporting Manchester United because I grew up within shouting distance of the stadium. But roughly speaking, half the stadium, 26,000 people. 26,000 people died on Europe's roads in 2015. And it sort of, I look at that image and think, well, if you went to a football match at Old Trafford on one Saturday and the crowd, the stadium was full like that, and then you went back the next Saturday and all those seats were empty, I think, where have all those people gone? I think they're all been killed on the roads. Now, it's not all through phone use, but people are dying on our roads every single day of the week across the UK and across Europe. And the likelihood of that being due to distraction for whatever reason is very, very high. And as phones have become an extension of our hands, and we have FOMO, fear of missing out, and such behaviours, that it's quite likely that the number of people that die on our roads because the drivers have been using a mobile phone in one way or another is going to increase. And this year alone, we only need to, last year alone, we only need to look at some of the high profile cases that came to court to realise how dangerous that be. And I keep coming back to it, and I'll continue to keep coming back to it. So the Thomas Croker case, where the driver was changing music on his phone whilst driving an HGV and ran into the rear of stationary traffic and killed 4 people. And it's just a pointless, utterly pointless waste of life that destroys families and totally avoidable. So the message we've got here, this is something that I started quite a few weeks back, and it was before the Be Phone Smart campaign by the RAC became known to me. And this worked on the mnemonic of saying, well, I'm pushing Don't Stream and Drive Day, but there's also a great deal of connection with the fact that it's cars and drivers and phones and they don't mix. And so people start need to be more smart about how they interact with their phone and what they do with their phone while they're driving. And so I use the mnemonic SMART to create this switch off, make your journey, arrive alive, reactivate, talk. Now, in hindsight, I'm not so sure that this is so brilliant. And it's only because if you're driving on your own and your phone is in what Think would now like to call your phone compartment or your phone box instead of your glove box, which I think is a great idea. And I've been pushing that for the last couple of days and will continue because I think that's a great idea. Make your glove compartment your phone compartment. But if your phone is in your glove box or your phone compartment and you switch it off while you're driving, well then in an emergency, it's not immediately available to you. In an emergency, if you've got Find My iPhone or some sort of tracking device and people don't know where you are and they can't get in touch with you, well, nobody's going to know because your phone is off. So there is an argument that you should be leaving your phone on while you're in the car. So that's a personal choice for people. But however you use the phone, the issue is about the fact that you're not interacting with it. Notifications are turned off. You can't see the screen. It's not ringing. Your calls divert to voicemail, maybe with a message that says, if I've not answered it, I'm probably driving and I'll get back to you as soon as I stop, whatever that happens to be. But it's about making the journey, arrive alive, reactivate, talk. And the Be Phone Smart campaign that the RAC have organised will supersede this, and I am happy to sort of just relinquish that to them and say, run with it, put B before it and run with it, and let's try and make a difference with that, because it's about being smart about your use of the phone, and realigning our relationship with our phones and our car so that we're safer, not only for ourselves but for every other road user that surround us.
For anybody who's watching us and listening to Neil, thank you. If you want to join us, you can click the link up above and you can join us live on air. All you need is a Chrome browser and your microphone and camera, and you're welcome to come on air and ask questions. And if you don't want to make it on air, and we quite understand that, not everybody does. I know Zahab would love to join us on air, and I'm sorry the app's not working at the moment. There is a beta version of the SmileTime app. If you write to support@smiletime.com, you can get the beta version of the app, and not only can you come live onto a broadcast, but you can start a broadcast from your phone. So this is Don't Stream and Drive Day, and can you just remind us of the figures again, Neil, that have gone out today, a number of tweets and so on?
Go back to Safari and have a look. I'll just update and refresh that, because there's a few more gone out whilst I've been rattling on. So I'm just going to flick through some of these tweets that I'm looking at now. There's yeah, somebody here has just put they put a photograph of the dashboard and said, this is the only time you should be using your phone. Find a safe place, handbrake on and engine off, and all the engines off, the rev counters at 0, and you know, so there's lots of people sharing the message today, which is fantastic, and all in the different ways. One of the things that I'd asked is for people to take a sort of letterbox photograph of their eyes, crop it down to it, and just put the picture of their eyes out and say, my eyes are on the road, not on my phone, hashtag don't stream and drive. So let's have a look. 1,138 tweets since midnight this morning. And the reach so far is 8,431,000. So we're well on the way, hopefully, as the day progresses, to equal or hopefully exceed the reach that we had last year, which was just over 20 million. And you know, the more the better. So the thunderclap's gone out. There's not a great deal people can do about that now, but it's more now about sharing the messages, retweeting the things that you see with Don't Stream and Drive, and keep pushing that message, helping more people understand about the dangers and raising the profile of the hashtag that will bring more people to it. And the more people that are aware of it, the more people will know of the dangers. And hopefully we can, step by step, change drivers' behavior.
Yeah, I'm just trolling for tweets, and there are a lot of them, as you say.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's one of those things of just sort of clicking through as I'm looking down, because I'm looking at my phone and just sort of retweeting a load of the thunderclap tweets, which again will just sort of help. It's a bit spammy in some regards, because I'll be sort of populating the timeline of all the people that I'm very grateful to that follow me with tweet after tweet after tweet that says don't stream and drive. But I think from experience, I know that when you put a tweet out, you might have 17,000 followers or 30,000 followers or 100,000 followers. But that doesn't mean that you're going to get a load of engagement with it, because there's a whole lot of people of those 100,000 who just don't see it or are not active on Twitter at all. As an example, there are sometimes I put stuff out on the work account, I think nearly 130,000 followers on the work account. And if you get 5 retweets for something, you think, oh, that's doing okay. Whereas you'd think with that many followers, there must be lots and lots more retweets, but no, because not everybody's on Twitter all the time. Some of the accounts will be inactive, or they've just missed the tweet. So you've got to keep pushing that message and keep pushing it. And I apologize to all my followers who for the last few weeks have seen nothing from me other than don't stream and drive, sign up, do this, thank you. So I do become a bit of a one-trick pony in the weeks running up to the campaign day.
It's understandable. I mean, the energy that you must put into this to actually get this off the ground, because it's not just today, it's the build up to today, and it's not just today, is it? I mean,
it's all year round. Exactly. This is just a day where we really give a big push to try and raise its profile and get more people involved to see what it's about. But this does carry on every single day of the week. I put something out about don't stream and drive, or I'm challenging a driver about their behaviour on Twitter that I've seen. If I've seen something on Periscope, because that's what it's about. It's about trying to raise awareness, right? 365 days a year, which drives my wife to distraction when I'm sort of got my phone in my hand on Christmas Day and put something out about it. But I think if you're gonna, I live and breathe this campaign, and I've got a passion for it, and it took me and many other people by surprise how successful it was last year, and so a little bit more prepared for it this year. But ultimately, if it continues to have a need and continues to have the traction that it has, well then I'll seriously need to look at how it's managed in the future as to whether or not it's something that I can continue to run, or whether it's something that I hand into a larger organization or charity or the NPCC or whatever it happens to be, to push the campaign from a more corporate stance, but allows me to spearhead it, which would allow me to retain sort of ownership of it, but give it a more formal footing. But that's part of the uncharted waters that I operate in as a Twitter user, as a police officer that isn't publicly force endorsed. I don't operate from a force account. I operate from my own Twitter account. But it has to be said that if my chief constable had a complete dislike to the way that I ran this and do this across social media, well then he would be within his rights to say, Neil, I don't like it, don't do it, stop. And ultimately, like it or not, he's my boss, and I'm not here to jeopardize my career or my pension, in which case it would stop and it would have to look at another way. So maybe not publicly voiced, but without the support of the chief and certainly the head of professional standards that I have at Cheshire, this wouldn't go ahead. But I suppose the difference to this year's campaign in the step up that it's taken is that as a consequence of the campaign last year, I've presented on Don't Stream and Drive to the National Roads Policing Intelligence Forum, which is headed by a superintendent from Gloucestershire called Paul Kesey, but he acts on behalf of Chief Constable Suzette Davenport of Gloucestershire Police, who's the NPC Roads Policing lead, or, well, she is until she retires, which she's just announced. And it's gained their support. So they're behind it, and a letter from Mum Davenport went out to every force and PCC in the country, talking about the legislation changes that have gone on yesterday, talking about the national approach that the NPCCs would like to see, but then also said the campaign will also be supported by the Don't Stream and Drive Day on the 2nd of March. So I've got that endorsement now at a national level, which is fantastic. So it's growing in reach this year, if not in sign-ups, but it's also grown in the support that it's got. The government think team have well and truly got behind it this year, which is quite a thing, really, because being an individual officer, I can be quite opinionated about some of the things that I agree or disagree with, that maybe a more corporate account, a police local account or a police or a main police account would not be able to do. And I had a long conversation with one of the senior people at the think team, not Christmas gone, but the Christmas before, where they ran the campaign about saying that the second pint is the one that's likely to cause you more problems. And those who have a second drink are far more likely to be involved in a collision and so on. And I said, well, wait a minute, I disagree with this entirely, because the whole thing is about none for the road. Not have one and you'll be okay, but definitely don't have a second. And I know what the message they were pushing, but I just said I fundamentally disagree with it, because I think you should be pushing none, nothing. Have water, have a lemonade, have a Coke, whatever, drink coffee, whatever it happens to be, but don't have anything at all. And they understood where I was coming from, but basically said, well, this is, based on figures and stats and research and all this information, and that's the message we're pushing. And I was critical of it. But they've engaged with me this year about Don't Stream and Drive, and they've supported it. They pushed tweets out. That has hugely helped in increasing reach on the Thunderclap, which has also led to retweets and endorsement by the Department of Transport, which I think are part of. But also this morning, the DVSA have signed up, which is another major coup. Some of the big government departments getting behind the campaign. And but in addition to that, I'm also very much aware, and they've not replied yet, but I sent them a direct message yesterday and said, I know I've been critical and I'm really grateful of your support, but credit where it's due, because the glove compartment, phone compartment thing that they pushed out, and I saw whilst walking through a shopping centre in Manchester yesterday, I had to do a mad dash to Manchester, and there on an interactive advertising board was the Think advert straight away. Boom, put your phone in here. And I've said to them, credit where it's due. It's a fantastic idea. It's a great thing, because who uses gloves when driving anymore? John, don't answer that. But I'm sure some people do, but there's very, very few people who use gloves while driving anymore. We still have this glove box.
I have.
Yeah, exactly. And it stems from times with cars with open tops and freezing cold, and put your gloves on while you're driving and stuff. I can remember some of my older relatives when I was a little boy who had driving gloves, and I can even remember my dad having a pair of driving gloves, which is bizarre. With his first car, a Humber Scepter, and he had like these string-backed gloves, but then leather on the palms and fingers that he, and I don't know, never really questioned him about it. But essentially, we don't use gloves anymore, and I think the Think campaign is brilliant in that regard. And so I'm right behind them with that. It's brilliant, and there's so much good stuff come out over the last sort of 24 hours regarding the phone penalty increases and the dangers of using phones. There's a video by the AA which I tweeted yesterday. I'll try and find a link and put it in the bottom in a second.
Okay.
And it's fantastic, because it basically goes back to those figures you showed earlier from TRL, that shows that actually using a handheld mobile phone increases your response time more than drink driving does. And so there's a lady getting this drunken bloke, dragging him into the car and getting him in the car and sitting him down and make sure he's got his seatbelt on. And then she's driving him home whilst using her phone. And he looks at her and he says, do you think you should be doing that? And she says, no, you're right. So she stops. And they trade places. She gets out and sits in the passenger seat because she's using the phone, and he, legless, gets in the driving seat. They don't drive off, but it makes this mockery of the point, which is really a great way of putting it across. So all credit to them. It's brilliant. That shows it's a complete and utter nonsense. Why would somebody so drunk get behind the wheel? Hang on a minute. You're using your phone. You're as bad as. You might be completely sober, but you're as bad as. But let me just go and find that link. It's superb.
Okay. Whilst Neil is finding that link, if you want to take part and join us, then just press the link up above and you can come on here and you can talk to Neil about Don't Stream and Drive Day, and I'll take that off there. And what I'm going to do now is switch up and change the layout. And I'm going to bring on the graphic, which I've just taken from a tweet. I'd like to talk about the people who are supporting this today, Neil.
It's rather impressive, isn't it?
It is.
I'm just not looking at the screen at the moment while I find this.
Oh,
video,
right,
so
okay. Okay, John and I will look at it, and we'll say that we're impressed by the growth. And I'm going to say, John's, hang on. John, this is...
rid of it, don't worry.
Yeah, no, right, okay.
Tony Bryant.
Right. Well, we're just going to run this segment for about another 10 minutes or so. But I did want to bring up the number of people who are actually supporting the initiative. Okay, I'm just going to check the questions, and I've been given a YouTube link. Oh, right, Neil.
That's the video. Can we play this in Smile Time? I think we can, can't we?
Not today, no.
Not today. All right. Okay.
I could have done it. We'll try later.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's see how far we can push Smile Time.
Okay. Probably all going to fall over now. If it plays, this is absolutely brilliant. It really is.
Well, I'll try and set it up to play this afternoon.
Okay. But if you're talking about the image that you've put up there, that's slightly out of date now.
You tweeted today.
In fact, not that one. That's...
Oh, he's gone.
All right. Okay. We've lost Neil's signal. I'll just take, and we'll change up for a moment. And I'll go there, and John's there. Hello, John. Right. Okay. I'll take that off the screen. We're taking a commercial break at the moment while Neil, and I'm trying to find Neil. And he says he's there, so invite Neil back. The thing about this is we are on smiletime.com, and Neil is now in the show, and I'm going to change the screen layout again and bring Neil back. Welcome back, Neil.
Don't know what happened there. But regardless of whether that image is slightly out of date or not, it's I don't know, is it something I can drag into the... I'm out of touch with Smile Time. I don't know whether I can drag that into the chat spotlight, can I? Or
it's not. It wasn't in the chat spotlight. It's actually
you dragged it up as a graphic.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few more been added to that now, because I've added Greater Manchester Police to that today, because as I said earlier, there's an awful lot of people who aren't very keen on thunderclaps, and I understand that. But are, regardless, very supportive of the campaign and what it's all about. And GMP, which is the first force I ever worked for, have been really supportive. And there are countless tweets gone out today from their neighbourhood accounts and their force account already this morning, pushing the Don't Stream and Drive message. So I've added them to it. But there's so many people in there that are supporting the campaign. You know, there's road safety charities, road safety organisations, police forces around the country, ambulance services, air ambulances, fire and rescue services. There's even a University of Western Scotland, National Crime Agency, the Think campaign. It's amazing how many people come together and just sort of say yes. And it's one of the ways that I can sort of keep sort of showing how increasingly popular the campaign is becoming, by showing the sort of logos of all those that have signed up to the Thunderclap. There are even on there are a couple of people that that are sort of individuals, really. One definitely, the other a little bit less so as an individual, but even so, sort of towards the top left-hand corner, iSocial Fans, Brian Fanzo, big US thought leader and influencer on social media and Snapchat, keen advocate of social media and everything that comes with it, and he supported campaign with all his accounts and brought quite a bit to it. And then just below that to the left is Social Media Examiner. That's Michael Stelzner of the Social Media Examiner, who signed up. They've got Social Media Marketing World coming up in California very shortly, which has become a huge event in the US, looking at how people are using social media across all the platforms. So there's a huge amount of support, police and crime commissioners, and even some community accounts. Cumbria Crack, which is like a news information account for the Cumbria County. Birmingham Updates down towards the bottom, BU, That's another community account that puts a lot of information out about Birmingham and what's happening in Birmingham to people. So there's an awful lot of variety across there of people that have signed up and shown they're willing to support it.
I just checked one of the accounts that I look after the social media for. A small company that does catering equipment in Birmingham. They did your thunderclap, not by choice. I decided they were going to do your thunderclap. They've already had 386 impressions.
Wow. Well, there you go.
They only have something like 1,900 followers. So
yeah. Well, I've just had a tweet here that says, who's it from? From Is Trend. So it looks like an auto account. It says, "Don't Stream and Drive is now trending in the United Kingdom." And it shows a picture with the trends map. I think it's an odd thing with trending, and I think sometimes it varies from whatever platform you're actually on and what you're looking at. So I'll just have a quick look at my phone and see what my phone says. But it's not in the top 20 on my phone, but then it's I think where they draw their information from sometimes changes, and so therefore they'll say it is trending when it's not on somebody else's device.
I mean, like for instance, mine is showing what's trending in Birmingham. So
yeah,
in a way, we need to perhaps change the location to UK or something like that.
Yeah, I think mine's on UK. In fact,
I'm changing mine to UK now.
it's better on the internet than.
Still doesn't show on there.
Yeah, let me just put Twitter up on here. So many windows with things open today. So.
Okay, why are you checking that, Neil? Shall we come back at 2?
We can do. Oh, cracky, it's 12:30. We're going for an hour already, haven't we? That's incredible.
True, but we'll have a US audience at 2
By
o'clock as
all
well.
means. I've certainly got an hour between 2 and 3 that I can do.
Right.
And then it's school run time for me. So it'd be lovely to chat more. But if there's any more questions that people have got before we go, I'm more than happy to answer them. Or if you throw questions to me on Twitter, I will do my best to reply to them all today. My timeline today is a little bit manic, as you'd expect. So if I miss it, well, then send it me again, and I will come back to you. But you know, the campaign is there, and it's about sort of raising awareness. So here's one now from Adrian again. I believe there are systems which stop people using mobile phones while they're in a car. Kevin Tillotson, I know, sells in this system to corporate car drivers. I think there are a number of things that are talked about. I've never really seen anything in action yet where phones can be stopped from being used. There are simple things like an envelope sort of pocket that you just drop your phone into, and it blocks all signals and stops any signal coming to it. And that's something that's been manufactured and you can buy and put your phone in it. And some people need that positive action to do something with their phone to actually stop them from doing something with it otherwise. Much as taking your phone now when you get in the car and putting it in your phone box or whatever you want, your phone compartment, whatever you want to call it. There are a huge amount of difficulties around blocking phones in cars because, as we discussed earlier about turning your phone off or leaving it on, if your phone is blocked and you're in emergency, people can't use Find My iPhone to find you. If you think about the accident or the collision up on, I think it was the A9 or somewhere up in Scotland where the car crashed and the police didn't find it and the driver was dead and the lady was in the car for 3 days before she died as well because they couldn't find them. You think, mobile phone, was it on? Find My iPhone, was there a signal where they were? But all those sort of implications come into place. Plus, if you're driving and there's a shield around your car blocking every phone, well, then it stops your driver using the phone. It stops your passenger, your passenger using the phone. It stops the people in the back using the phone. And you think, well, that's ridiculous because the person in the passenger seat could be scrolling through Twitter and say, it says here from Bedfordshire Police that the M1 is at a standstill at junction 9. Let's get off here at 6 and take that route via the back roads. So there's plenty of reasons for why blocking phones in the car carte blanche is not a really appealing solution. And there are applications now that are available in the United States that will sort of help you score points as you drive and not using your phone. It monitors your movement, and if you're not interacting with your phone, you score points, and as your points accrue, you can then claim rewards for those things, which are interesting and have got some use. But I sort of think you're still asking people to interact with the phone whilst they're driving. So whilst it's encouraging you not to look at it, and it will penalize you if you do, it sort of still generates that practice of, I've got one eye on the road and another one on my phone, which I'm not particularly comfortable with. And I've said this right from the start, and I keep saying it now, is that technology will provide a solution of some sort at some point, but I have seen absolutely nothing yet that trumps common sense. And common sense is put it in the glove box, put it on silent, and leave it until you get there.
This is my S7. This has do not disturb mode.
Yes, exactly. Same as the Apple.
Do not disturb.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I don't know if I can, whether it will work on here or not, but can that go full screen? On the iPhone, doing this in reverse, but you can, if it will do it, I'll do it from this side. You slide up from the bottom, and it gives you that option. So you've got airplane mode, but also the half moon, crescent moon there. I tap that. Oh, hang on. Now highlighted the half crescent. That's do not disturb mode. And so no notifications will come through whatsoever. And if they do, they're just silent. So
and on mine, it's an entry sign, and like a no entry sign, just like you get at a.
This is the thing, you know, and there are other concerns, obviously, because it's a great thing about leaving your phone on and having it in your phone box. But if you've got a more modern car, mine doesn't, but my wife's does, it will automatically pick it up on Bluetooth, and then the phone will ring in the car anyway, and then you've got the hands-free capability, which again isn't against the law because it's hands-free, but is the driver distracted? Because there's a huge difference between the phone call that comes through in the car and the hands-free that you press a button on the steering wheel and answer, and it's your partner who says, "Where are you?" You say, "I'm 10 minutes away, I'll be home in 10 minutes. Okay, see you in a minute, bye," boom. And the phone call that comes through that says, "Hello, is that Neil? Yes. Oh, hello, it's such and such from ITV here. We're interested in the Don't Stream Drive campaign, and we're wondering whether there's something we can do. And can we talk about it?" And then suddenly you're in a big, long, protracted conversation whilst you're driving, and the person that is on the other end of the phone can't see what you're doing. Now, if you're in a conversation with somebody in the car, you'll have experienced this yourself. You're driving down the road, you're talking to somebody as a passenger, and you're talking and you drive. And when you reach that point where your concentration as the driver needs to increase because you're at a roundabout and there's traffic and you're not quite sure where you're going and you're looking and you're doing all these things, is that the conversation stops because the passenger knows that you instinctively knows that you're under pressure and goes, "Oh, it is busy today, isn't it? Oh, there you go, off you go, and we're on our way." The person on the other end of the phone who might not even know you're driving, but will just continue that conversation. So while you're negotiating that roundabout and looking at road signs and trying to brake and check your mirrors and doing your indicating and looking at all the traffic and the cyclist that's coming up your near side that you've still not seen yet and the pedestrian that's about to step off the curb, and you're saying, "Well, I think the 20,000 return on that investment is probably going to be good, but I think we need to speak to these other people about the percentage increase on our shortfall, blah, blah." You think, you can't be doing all that as well. It's ridiculous. So hands-free comes with some huge, huge risks that people are only starting now to come alive to.
Yeah, and
doesn't allow the hands-free to pick up either.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, obviously it's in the box and it's going to put the Bluetooth. So if you go onto these do not disturb modes, it will stop the calls. The calls will still come in. You're not in airplane mode, which isolates your data connection completely. So it would stop Find My iPhone and people being able to locate where you are, that you want to know where you are. But it stops those calls coming through on your Bluetooth, which has got to be a good thing. But there's huge implications for employers there, as policies start to come into place to say we're providing, employers of up until recently sort of said, yes, we need our staff to use the phone whilst they're on the road, and we've provided them with hands-free kits or Bluetooth earpieces and all this sort of stuff. And you think, that's great, but it's not good. Not good at all, particularly when you look at those TRL stats that show that it increases impairment and response times more than drink driving.
I just got a just highlighted message sent out by West Yorkshire Police on Twitter.
Yep. That's the thunderclap tweet. West Yorkshire signed up very early, had great support from West Yorkshire last year and this year, and their chief, D. Collins, has been really supportive of it. So that's the message that the thunderclap sends out. Phones and drivers do not mix, don't stream and drive, which is part of the Fatal 4. And that link at the end, that compressed link, is to the Don't Stream and Drive WordPress blog, which just gives a little bit more information. I'm hopeful, need to spend, now Don't Stream and Drive day is underway and we'll finish at midnight tonight. I'm hopeful that from that point I'll have a little bit more time on my hands and I'll start filling that blog and web space with much more information about dangers of streaming and driving, dangers of mobile phone use and driving, scholarly articles about information about use of phones and psychology around it, and all those sort of things that are out there that could be consolidated into one place to give people more information about the dangers, not just of streaming and driving, but of using their phone in any way whilst they're behind the wheel.
And the sun has come out to make dreams.
If the sun's out, John, it must be time to take a stroll in the garden. I think that's possibly a good idea. So, with that in mind, Neil and John and I will be back with you at 2 o'clock. Do you want to say thank you to everybody, Neil? And we'll wrap this.
Thank you for those who have been here. If you've seen the link on Twitter or on Facebook and you think it'll be interest to other people, well, then do please share it out, because we'll be live on the same platform. So the link will work again later when we come live at 2 o'clock, but we'll tweet it out again. But yeah, thank you for your questions that have come in, and do get on your platform. It's not just Twitter, it's about Instagram, it's about Facebook, it's about Snapchat, it's about Musical.ly, it's whatever platform you use. If you've got the opportunity to put a message out somewhere, particularly with the picture of your eyes, and don't stream and drive. My eyes are on the road, not on my phone. Don't stream and drive. Well, then let's get the message out there to as many people as possible. And thank you for your support.
We'll see you at 2 o'clock. And we're going for a walk in the sunshine or cloudy skies. And we'll see you soon. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye. Right, now we're all going to be removed from the screen, but I'll just bring us back for a minute.